Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another naming video. So I haven't done one of these in quite a long time. I think the last one I did was probably a good 15 weeks ago maybe. So I am nearly I am full term, but I am 11 days away from my due date and I'm just kind of running out of energy to film like proper videos, and I love baby names, so I thought I would do another baby naming video. So if you are new here, my name is Sophie and I obviously am pregnant and I'm expecting my first baby and I don't know the sex. So I upload a lot of pregnancy content and lifestyle content, and obviously when the baby arrives I'll be uploading a lot of new mum content as well. So I like to think a lot of my videos can be quite helpful, and I like to try and upload something that someone can take away from it. Like, I'm not just into just average vlogs. I do like filming vlogs, but I like to also give helpful content out. So I've got a list of baby names, and as you can maybe tell by the title, they are all 4 letters. So I thought I would do something different, as I know a lot of people quite like just short baby names. So they're all quite unique. There's nothing really boring like Jack or, I don't really know, Lily. Obviously they are lovely names, but they're just not very unique. So everything on here is pretty unique, and I just thought it would be nice to do something different. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to smash out the boys' names and then smash out the girls' names. Sometimes I do like to go girl, boy, but today I just thought, because they're all short and sweet, we'll go boys first and then we'll go girls. So we'll just jump straight into it. So the first boy's name is quite unique, but it's also quite popular, and it is Arlo. So that's A-R-L-O. I just think it's a gorgeous little name, and there's not too many around, so it's not like really popular, but I just think it's a lovely boy's name. I think it's a nice name for when they're younger and a nice name for when they're older as well. This is actually one of our boys' names' middle names. So we have 2 boys' names chosen, and this is a middle name for one of them, and it just sounds really nice with the first name, and they're both really short names actually. So the next name is AXEL, so that is A-X-E-L. I've included this in one of my naming videos before, but I just really love the name. It's not something I think I would personally use, but I still love the name. I think it's a gorgeous name. I think it's really like strong and manly, and I just think it stands out. The next boy's name is Beau. So that's B-E-A-U. Again, I think it's a gorgeous name, and it was one of our choices for a middle name because it kind of went really well with like the first name. That name is like our top 3, so it's not in the top 2 anymore, but it's in the top 3. So if we end up having 3 boys, then we definitely will have a boy with the middle name Beau. But it's become quite popular now for a first name, and I just think it's actually a really nice name. It's kind of obviously quite feminine, but I also think it's masculine at the same time, and I just think it's a really beautiful, like, old-fashioned name. So the next one is Cruz. So this is spelled in many ways, but obviously the 4-letter version would be C-R-U-Z. Again, it's quite popular between celebrities, but it's also very rare and quite nice and unique, and I really like the name Cruz. But again, I don't think I'd really use it just because I know a lot of celebrities with that name, but I think if you're into that sort of like X and Z's, I think Cruz is a really nice name to use for a little boy. So next is a really lovely name. I was going to have this as one of our boys' middle names, and it is Cove. So literally C-O-V-E. It's obviously like an ocean name, which I really like. I do like the meaning behind names. Any name that's to do with the ocean, like I love the name Ocean. I think it's beautiful. I just think is really nice, and I do think it's quite nice and manly. I do think it would also suit a girl, but I do prefer it for a boy, and I think it's a really nice middle name, and I love that sort of first letter begins with a C, middle name begins with a C. So I think if you were to have like a Charlie, or you know, more traditional name, like you might have like a Charlie Cove or even a Cove Charlie, like I just love that sort of like sound effect, but I think it's a really nice name. Next we've got Ezra. So I know quite a few Ezras, but again it's still not that common, and I just think it's a really lovely boy's name. It's really quite masculine, it's strong, it's cool, it's quirky, and obviously it's nice and short, and I just think it's a name that can carry with them when they're a bit older. I think even if you're 30 years old and you're called Ezra, like I don't think it's too strange, but that is one of my favourite. Josh actually really liked that name and he kept mentioning it, but it's just not up there for me enough to actually use it. But Josh really likes the name Ezra. Next is the name Reed, so that is R-E-I-D. Again, it's just short and sweet. I think Reed, I think it's quite a masculine name. I think it's cool and I think it would make a young boy stand out. And I also think it's fine for when they're a teenager. Like, I think it's quite a cool name to have as a teenager. Again, it's quite a cool middle name as well. So that whole like RR, I'm not sure what you'd put in front of it. Maybe like a Ryan. That's really quite boring, but I just think those short names are really lovely as a first name with a long middle name, or really lovely as a middle name with a long first name. But like I said, the name that we've got Arlo as a middle name for, the first name is really short as well, so it's two really short names, but they do sound really beautiful together. But I think Reed is just a really nice boy's name. So next we've got Rue, so that's R-O-U-X. That's becoming quite popular now, or people can spell it R-E-U-X. I just think Rue, it's just short and sweet, and it doesn't, you think you'd just spell it with 2 zeros, but I think the way it's spelled is actually really nice, and it's really quirky, and it kind of sounds like a nickname, but those names are coming in. Like, I think those names that sound like nicknames but actually are real names are becoming really popular, and I just think if you want that sort of short and sweet name, Rue is a beautiful name to use for a little boy. Then we've got Theo. Obviously Theo is quite popular now and a lot of people use it short for Theodore or Teddy, but I just think it's a gorgeous name. It's quick, it's cheerful to say, it suits like a baby, it suits a young boy, it suits an adult. I just think Theo is a gorgeous name. I've said gorgeous a million times, but I don't really know what other words to use to explain these names. Like, I just think it's a really nice name. Really quite masculine, but also quite feminine, I think, because obviously you can have girls' names that sound very similar. So I think Theo, it's like one of them in the middle. It's quite masculine, but it's kind of quite feminine as well. So the last one, which should have been before this one actually, is Rafe. So that's R-E-F. Again, you could spell it like R-A-F-E or R-A-I-F, but I think it's quite similar to Rue and Reed, like Rafe. I think it's actually a really nice name, and I was watching Pearl Harbor the other day, which was filmed in 1999, so it's quite a long time ago, and I forgot that one of the pilots in that is called Rafe, one of the main characters, and it just really stood out to me, and I kind of remembered it, and I was like, wow, I actually really like that name. And obviously, even though it's quite unique, it is obviously quite an old-fashioned name because Pearl Harbor is set in like World War II. So I kind of like that about it. I like that it's old, but it's kind of coming back in, and people probably think it's a bit modern, but it's actually like a really old-fashioned name. And Rafe, I just think it sounds really nice. I know someone called Reef, but I like the little change in twang to Rafe. Like, I just think it's a really nice name, and actually I would consider it for my next child if I ended up having like 2 or 3 boys. I just think it's a really lovely name. The more I say it, the more that I'm into it. So they are the boys' names done. So we'll now move on to the girls' names. So the first one is Aria or Araya. I guess you can sort of pronounce it differently depending on how you want to pronounce it. So this is actually becoming really popular. I think I've seen about 3 or 4 girls in the last few weeks, like on social media, being called this, but I do think it's just a really nice name, especially when there's only 4 letters. I think names for girls with less letters are harder than names for boys. I think there's a lot of girls' names out there that have got quite a lot of letters. So a lot of the girls' names I've got have got similar letters, again, because I do think it's quite hard to find those short names. So the next one is Lola. So I know a little girl called Lola, and she's probably about 7 now, but it's actually not that popular anymore. But I do think it's just a really nice girly name, and I think even as you get older, like a teenager, I think Lola's just a really gorgeous little feminine name. It's quirky and it's unique, I think, because there's obviously not that many around, and it's definitely one I would consider using. I think it's just a really nice girl's name. And the next one is Luna, which means moon, which I really like the meaning behind Luna. I think Luna obviously is quite popular now. I do know quite a few, but I still think it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous name, and it's something that I would definitely consider if I was to have like more than like one or two girls. Like it would probably be like my second or third girl's name if I ended up with like 3 girls. Again, I just think it's a gorgeous little name. It's quick, it's easy to say, it's really feminine, and I just think it would sort of make a little girl just stand out a little bit. I just think it's a really cool name, Luna. So the next one is Mila. And again, I think that's becoming quite popular now, especially after like Mila or Mila Kunis. I think since she sort of became a thing, a lot of people have used the name Mila. I do know quite a few, but again, I just think it's a gorgeous little name to say. I think it's really feminine, and also obviously it's really feminine and it's short and sweet, which I think is really, really nice. So the next two are some of my favourite names for a girl, but they're still not in my top 3. In fact, one of them is in my top 3. So the first one is Nola. So that is becoming quite popular. There's quite a few, but I just think these really quick names to say are becoming really in at the minute, and I think like Nola and Luna, like I just think they're beautiful names. Like imagine having twins called like Nola and Luna, or Luna and Nola. Like I just think that's a really gorgeous set of twin names. So Nola is, again, like it's really feminine, and I just think it would kind of make you stand out a bit. Like if you're at school and you know, you call Nola, it's not really weird, but it's nice and different, and I just think people would always be like, wow, that's such a beautiful name. The next one is Nova, so quite similar to Nola, obviously literally just 1 letter change. So I really liked this as a middle name for one of our girls' names, but Josh said with the first name it sounds like a car, because obviously I think, is it a Vauxhall Nova, or it's like a Volkswagen Nova? It is actually a car's name. And then he just said with that first name that we've chosen, he just said it sounds like a car, which I do get, he kind of was right, but I also really like it as well. But I think I would prefer Nola to Nova, but I do still think it's a really, really nice name. So next is, this is quite a popular name, and it is the name WREN. So obviously you could put an E on the end, which a lot of people are doing. I know Lauren Pope's just called her daughter WREN, and I just think it's a gorgeous name. Like obviously it is a word, but I think these word names are becoming quite popular, and it's not a really weird one like apple or I don't know, like candle. Do you know, like I think the earthy names are really coming in. So the next name that I've got is quite earthy as well. And I don't know, like I just think WREN, I think it's a really nice middle name as well. I think it would go lovely as a middle name. You know, something like Arabella Rain, because Arabella's got the R in it. Like I actually really like putting names together, like first names and middle names. But I think WREN would be lovely as a first name and also lovely as a middle name. So the next girl's name I've got is Sage. So I think this is quite popular in the US. It's a lot more popular in the US than it is in the UK. But again, I just think it's a gorgeous little girly name. And I think it's quirky, it's different, but it's not too strange. Like it's not like calling your child Pepper. Although Pepper, I bet there's quite a lot of peppers around actually. Obviously it's a herb, but I just think it's a really gorgeous little name to use. Sage, like I think even as you get older, like I think Sage is a really nice name to have. Again, I think it'd be a gorgeous middle name, especially that'll go alongside something that begins with an S. But yeah, Sage, love it. Next is Thea. So obviously that's similar to Theo, and it's not actually that popular, which I'm really surprised at, because I think it's a gorgeous name and it's really easy to say. And I just think, again, it's one of those names that can be carried on from like a little girl, like a little toddler, to like a teenager, and even as you're older. I think Thea is just a really nice name, really feminine, and just it's different because there's actually not that many around, so it is quite unique, which really surprises me. I thought there would be a lot more Theas, especially in 2020. I thought it was going to be kind of one of them names, but I think I've only really heard of like 2 or 3 Theas. So the last one, this is also used as a boy's name, but I much prefer it as a girl's name, and it is the name WREN. So WREN, again, it's obviously like an earthy bird creature name, And again, I just think because it sounds like it begins with an R, because you miss the W out, I just think it's a really nice little name to say, Wren. I also think it'd be a gorgeous middle name. Let's try and think of one that it would go with, like Willow Wren. I think it'd look quite nice written down, I don't really know. But that is my last girl's name, Wren, and I really, really like it. I think it's up there probably in my top 5. I think it's quirky, I think it's girly, and I think it's different, and I just really like those earthy names like rain, wren, ocean, reed, cove, river. Like, I just think earthy names and those earthy sort of tones are like really coming back in fashion. So I hope you've enjoyed watching my latest naming video. I'm hoping to do quite a few more even when the baby arrives, as I just love naming videos, and I actually get a lot of people asking me for naming inspiration, which I'm not sure why, but I think because I like classic names, but I also really like quirky and unique names. I'm sort of in the middle. I don't like really strange names like Bush. I'm just looking at Bush, that's why I said Bush, but I don't know anyone that would call the child Bush, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not into these really strange names, but I also do like the sort of different names, like the earthy ones and the unique ones. But I also like a classic name like Henry or George or Beatrice. Like, I just love names. Like, I've always been obsessed with names. Like, when I've had dolls when I was younger, I just loved naming my dolls. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you in my next video.